2 weeks ago, I turned 30. A birthday that is considered on planet Earth to be a special one. But why? Turning 30 is considered a watershed from one's impetuous youthful years, where it was expected to make mistakes, accepted in fact, and learning was allowed, to the responsible years, where one is expected to be a responsible human being, level-headed, with a successful job, home, car, partner, and transitional wardrobe. I've never been someone to go with the grain. I've been called weird in my life, more times than I can count. I was never the popular kid, nor the revered swot. Simply the oddball, likely to be tactless, opinionated, and awkward. And although I had a good sense of humour, it wasn't always met with a good response. I remember often wishing I could be the cool, normal kid, but I never truly wished to be someone else. I've always known how I feel about things, and although having strong, unconventional opinions as a kid didn't make me popular, it has enriched my life as an adult. It is my superpower.
So that's why, rolling into 30, I haven't doubted how I feel, nor have I questioned whether I should be in a different place to the one I'm in presently. Where I am now is a phenomenal result from me, compared with where I was and have been in the past. The result perhaps doesn't feel exactly what is expected of me by society, but it feels a hell of a lot more in context with the trials and tribulations I experienced in my 20s.
This is me on my 30th birthday. For me, turning 30 is less about having fulfilled a certain quota, but more about closing a difficult chapter of my life and walking through the door towards a new one, filled with lessons learned and love for who I am and patience for where I want to be. So what have I learned to leave behind? Number 1, rigidity.
I grew up like most people with my parents' values and a clear picture of who I should be, the only acceptable way to be. It took me most of my 20s to learn that there isn't one picture of success, and there isn't one picture of what a family looks like. Although one's makeup is made up by their values in some respects, it's not the be-all and end-all. That's not where the picture of a human being ends. The lines are blurred. My goodbye to rigidity was really solidified when I stopped expecting it from myself. My armour has always been control. I learned at some point that if I control what is happening around me, how I act and how I feel, I'm going to be safer, happier, and more successful. This meant that if something went wrong in my life, I punished myself for not generating a different outcome. This paralysis of shame, guilt, and disappointment was a prison. And as you can imagine, I wasn't safer, happier, or more successful. I never tried to control those around me, just myself. And for years and years, I struggled with a borderline eating disorder and obsessive compulsive thoughts. It was only when I relinquished control did I truly start to succeed. And I realized what areas I could be productive in and what areas are just out of my control. Control occasionally pops up and flutters around me in my life now, but I'm more aware of it and I acknowledge it. But it's a way of living I have left in the past. I learned from a very young age that academic achievement is the most important thing. And if I wasn't focusing my attention on achieving better and on the next goal, then I wasn't working hard enough, and that was frowned upon. Moving to Vienna at 27, I accepted a job that sits more or less at the top of my chosen career. There are some jobs beyond that, but to go for those, I would be changing my lifestyle completely and facing financial instability. So once I'd settled into Austria, my brain was running wild. I needed something else other than work, but I'd only worked for a decade, and that was really scary. This exploration led me to Lemonage, my channel, my project, which is to live life to the fullest and try things out of my comfort zone.
I choose to move forward and sink my teeth into as many things as I can. And monotony, I leave in my 20s.
So if I've left rigidity, control, and monotony in the past, what have I taken forward into this new chapter? I learned some wonderful things at the end of my 20s, starting with
acceptance. I moved to London in 2016 when I was 22 years old. I just wrapped up my undergraduate degree in my homeland of Scotland, and I was en route to complete 2 years of a master's degree in London. I was so excited to leave my childhood city and all the embarrassment and stupidity of my early youth behind me. Every move that I have made, I have relished the opportunity to be somebody new, to wipe the slate clean and wipe away the past nobody needs to know. All before the age of 30, I have moved to Helsinki, London, and Vienna, and I've learnt that you cannot escape the past. Instead of blanking out those relationships that were a mistake and humiliating, I keep photos of them and remind myself from time to time that I love the woman I am today because of what she did in the past. And I'm so proud of the steps that she has made to leave those situations and the journey she is committed to end up here. Vulnerability. I don't understand how people cry at movies or cry at happy moments. I haven't cried in 3 years. And I could never understand the use of therapy. Why would I tell my problems to a stranger that's probably just there for the hefty paycheck? I can fix everything on my own. And so in the latter half of my 20s, I slowly started to learn how to cry. Depression and heartbreak in the pandemic was enough to jolt me into realizing I can't fix everything on my own. Vulnerability is the key, it's the answer. And I never knew how beautifully broken we humans are. And I have the best and most wonderful romantic relationship, full of depth and trust, that never would have been possible without vulnerability.
So exciting, but we need a lot more yogurt. Oh, I actually might have been a bit too much.
I remember going to see a teacher at school for guidance. I was 16 and felt like a freak. And I said to her, I just want to be normal. And she said to me, but what is normal? How are you not normal? I thought she was bonkers and didn't understand my complex, devastating teenage world. But she was right. It doesn't matter now whether what I love is fashionable or cool. Although I have doubts like everybody else sometimes, I'm no longer ashamed of what I love and what I enjoy. And I think to be really comfortable in oneself is the most free one can ever feel.
This is me exactly 2 months before my birthday. So I've left some negative things in the past and brought some great things forward. But what about the weight I still hold on to? I don't like to admit it, but I still struggle with
judgments. Surrounded by a world of constant comparison and human nature being what it is, we are all guilty of judging. But I find myself sometimes looking down on people and feeling really angry when my expectations have not been met. It's perfectly acceptable to have expectations, but I want to try and find a way of expressing how I feel that is healthier and less toxic. I hope I speak truthfully when I say I really try not to speak about people behind their backs and to think well of people. And I try to have friendships with people who value this too. But sometimes things sneak out. We are all bruised, we all have our own story, and no one really knows what's going on behind closed doors. I think sometimes it can help to let off a bit of steam in a safe space, but I'm really hoping to diminish even more my tendency to think unkindly of others. Patience I still find relatively hard, considering how closely connected it is to control. The two in tandem are a spicy pair, but I've finally been able to acknowledge and notice when it's rising within me and contemplate how I can better improve it. My boyfriend has endless amounts of patience, which I am in awe of,
and I'm so lucky to be able to observe and learn from him every single day.
What?
Oh, just come in. I'm a ticket for the long run. So far whiskey on the way, and I sure would like some company. I'm leaving tomorrow, what you say? But I'm gone, and I'm gone. You're gonna say I'm gone. You're gonna see my hair, you're gonna see everywhere. You're gonna see my